Happy New Year to you, Fareed. So great to have you here with us this morning. Look, what are you hearing from U.S. allies around the world? What do they hope when Joe Biden takes office? What do they expect? And I wonder if there's a difference.
Happy New Year, John. Pleasure to see you bright and early in this year. Um, what I'm hearing more than anything else is a sense of hope about the United States being back in the game, being back as an engaged power, as an agenda setter, a country that wants to try to help organize cooperative solutions around the world, get engaged with problem solving, everything from climate change to regional issues. But I think, underneath that, what I detect is a hope that the Biden administration understands this is not just a kind of restoration. You can't go back to 2008 or 9 or 2012. The world has changed a lot. I mean, one of the things I try to describe in my book is just how profoundly the world has changed. So just think about where we are with China. China is now clearly the second most important country in the world. It is, the United States and China in a league of their own. China has come out of this pandemic in many ways stronger. Yes, its reputation got battered a bit because of its early handling, but it has essentially vanquished the virus without a vaccine. It also has vaccines on board. It is moving forward with much greater confidence in the world. And a lot of countries, allies in Europe and in Asia, are wondering, what is the Biden administration going to do about this? How can it find a way to both cooperate and compete with China? That's really the big question.
Call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakapadash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Peace and blessings to the Akim on the highways and hedges, doing these sit-downs, risking their lives in these treacherous times. The first rule of war is, of course, to know your enemy. Before that, though, it is imperative you know yourself and the international banking families, as well as you heathen who live deliciously from under the spell of Babylon's wickedness, are not ignorant to your strengths. Forget your shortcomings. The elite are definitely aware of any handicaps they might have when it comes to this truth. As proud as Esau and Moab are, they have the records, they know the history, they are in possession of the historical documents, they are full aware of the outcome. Why else do you think they are constantly coming up with new ways to oppose, oppress, if not do away with Hebrew Israel? In their minds, through sheer willful ignorance, hopefully, finally, and forever. This is Galatians chapter 6, verse 3, and it reads, "For if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. For the spiritual man, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians who really are Israelites but are dead from the neck up and love this life, think you have survived this long through slavery, plantation Christianity, the Trail of Tears, lynching, smallpox, COINTELPRO, Jim Crow, alcohol, drugs, overrun reservations, pissy staircases and project hallways, the prison industrial complex, etc., etc., of your own doing, of your own perseverance, of your own quick wit and good luck. If that is where your mind is at, then you are fooling yourself. For the carnal man, speaking to you heathen who hold pride in his flesh, Amalek and Esau being the top of the food chain, Moab, Ishmael, you other nations on down, if you think you owe your wealth, prosperity, good fortune, and control over the earth and over the Israelites due to your intellectual prowess and mental fortitude, not to mention your might and military capabilities, then you too are in denial and will be sadly mistaken, hastening the day of the coming of our Lord, which is right around the corner. Galatians 6 and 7, be not deceived, the Heavenly Father is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reap. Imagine being forced to play a game of chess knowing your loss is the inevitable outcome, no matter the scenario given, every time. No matter how much you've adapted and planned your attack, no No matter how ingenious your strategy is, differing, of course, from the last planned attack, you simply just can't win. Psalm 2 and 1, and it reads, "Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. Why do the heathen rage? The jab, the chip, martial law, lockdowns, quarantines, crashing the dollar, the great global reset, space force, a new world order, and the people, you other nations, imagine a vain thing. All throughout history, no matter how many times they've raped, robbed, plundered, pillaged us, and attempted to separate us from our power on every conceivable level and in every conceivable way, them Israelites just keep on ticking, huh? And on top of being unable to erase our existence and rid the earth of our presence, how vain the imagination, intricate the plot, and how high the chips are stacked against Israel. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai has promised you laughter for your failure as a consolation prize, Esau, and you will be recompensed, meaning the same will be returned on your head. Isaiah 33 and 1, Woe to thee that spoileth, woe meaning destruction, to thee that spoileth, speaking of Esau and the confederate nations against Israel, pursuant to Psalms 83, who denied us of the knowledge of our nationality, identity, and the freedom to practice and live it out. And those was not spoiled, and dealeth treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled, and when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. Psalm 23 and 5, Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Matter of fact, in the presence of the elite and international bankers, the Lord has given us the truth and this gospel while we remain captive to Esau's blessing, but promises our redemption and deliverance if we endure in the faith to the end. The next rule of engagement as suggested by Esau is to prevent the enemy's ability to fight. Edom has done that to us as a people in numerous ways, pretty much in the instances I've already detailed. Slavery, COINTELPRO, injecting heroin and dope, period, into low-income housing being housed by Jake. And then there's kill the enemy's soldiers and leaders, which obviously they've also done. This is Luke chapter 11, verse 49, and it reads, Therefore also said the wisdom of the Most High, I will send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they shall slay and persecute, that the blood of all the prophets which was shed from the foundation of the world may be required of this generation. Another way used to prevent our ability to fight, really meaning to prevent our defense against any attack, was destroy our material assets, removing us from and robbing us of our land and natural resources, Israel as a nation being the most valuable of assets and resource. Deuteronomy 28 and 50 says this, A nation of fairest countenance, speaking of Esau Edom, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favor to the young, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thine kine, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. So in order to stifle us and destroy any hopes of our future, they set out to ensure we had no chance for growth and prosperity, any possibility of transferring wealth or inheritance to be passed down to the advantage of our future generations. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which Yahweh thy power hath given thee. No land to pass on to our kin, never mind walls to secure us from the threat and possibility of attack from alien forces. Still, Israel kept on ticking. How about this? Cripple the enemy's logistics and supply lines, blind the enemy's intelligence, which again includes separating us from our power. 2 Corinthians 4 and 4, we'll start at 3. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. Really speaking of the two-thirds pursuant to Zechariah 13 and 8. Because none of Yahweh's election are lost. Verse 4, in whom the God of this world, being evil Esau, Edom, hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, again the two-thirds, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Hamashiach, the anointed one, Yahweh Shai, who is the image of the heavenly Father, should shine onto them. Hiding the information of our being, writing us out of the history books as if our existence as a nation begins as slavery, all in the hope of keeping us mentally and spiritually dead. And that's Hosea 4 and 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Lies of a white God and even whiter Jesus, and the spreading of misinformation, deception like who the Edomites are, and Esau as a nation was done away with. Ecclesiastes 4 and 16. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this is also vanity and vexation of spirit, which leads into the Esau's favorite tactic, favorite rule of engagement, the dissemination of propaganda, starting with mainstream media, this being a major tactic in the war against Yasharallah on a global scale. Think about how the whole world in a matter of months was completely brought under the control and subjection of Esau's will because somebody supposedly ate batshit soup. This really speaks to slander and bearing false witness, the demonization of Israel, labeling us as black identity extremists, none short of labeling us as domestic terrorists and a militant hate group. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12, and it reads, yeah, and all that will live godly in the anointed Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly, starting with Esau, calls Jesus Christ, shall suffer persecution. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. All this being Yahweh's will, he tells us in Job 12 and 6, is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. How about the threat of confinement and imprisonment? Revelation 2 and 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Next in preventing our ability to fight is causing confusion in the ranks, ergo agents and spies. Jeremiah 5 and 26. For among my people are found wicked men. They lay wait as he that setteth snares. They set a trap. They catch men. Those that claim they are in the truth and are really about causing derision and feeding their own belly are the most wicked, but that too is of Yahweh's will, to allow the unworthy amongst the worthy as an example for the elect on how not to be. Verse 27, as a cage is full of birds, so are their houses full of deceit. Therefore they are become great and waxen rich. Enter stage right, the pork chop preacher and 501c3er set up by the wicked elite to deceive the flock, further lending to the idea of attempting to separate us from our power. Verse 28, they are waxen fat, they shine, yea, they overpass the deeds of the wicked, they judge not the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the right of the needy do they not judge. Shall I not visit thee for these things, saith the Lord? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? The sincere will be purified and made whole. The wicked will be punished and eventually perish from the earth. This disruption includes you so-called brothers, really niggas who don't own mirrors, set up to kill the spirit, and you scoffers and gainsayers on a comment board. That then leads us to the next rule of engagement, and as far as I'm concerned right now, one we have been seeing coming down the turnpike for quite some time: disrupt enemy communications. This is Amos chapter 8, verse 11, and it reads, behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord Yahweh. The incoming Biden administration has been very vocal about their intentions regarding censorship, First Amendment rights, and the doing away with alternative news sources. Look at the chokehold the technocrats have, who are really the powers in play, and that power that they exert and hold over social media. If they can ban indefinitely the leader of the free world, what about you Israelites making videos teaching this truth? which leads right back to the opening clip. If alternative sources didn't pick up on it first, Fareed Zakaria wouldn't be up here telling you, as if CNN and the elite really want you to know that China has all but quelled the threat of the CV-19 without the vaccine. Now, I have mixed emotions when I hear talk of China and the U.S. being currently engaged in a Cold War. I'm old enough to remember reports that have long been scrubbed from the internet. I'm sure most of you have heard the stories of underground bases, maps to match, and foreign boots on the ground, obviously brought to the West to police the sheeple they have no emotional attachment to. For those not in the know, the bloodlines of the international bankers, the men behind the curtain that rule the world, have long extended to the Chinese Communist Party. Like Jacob, Esau's lineage was also spread, speaking to the parable of the wheat and the tares. This is 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 46, and it reads, "And thou, Asia," speaking to Moab and Ammon, the Chinese and Japanese, China being the more powerful out of the two, "that are partakers of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person." Asia's hope is being the next global power to rule. Let's not forget, China owns most of the American debt, and because of the exhausted debt, has asked to also be repaid in land. Geopolitically, it is China that is keeping the American economy afloat. Verse 47, "Woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee." Meaning, destruction is coming to China for becoming just like America, mimicking its practices and acquiring capital as well as its vanity-driven lifestyle, spirit of Americanism, fast food restaurants, stock market system, fashion districts, central banks, even its military prowess. Speaking of the new stealth bomber and China's second strike capabilities, all stylized like the U.S. "Thy lovers which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee" speaks to Esau as well as the other nations in bed with the Asian markets. No secret that everything being manufactured is overseas. Everything is now made in China. Verse 48, "Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions." Again, China's aspirations are to build an empire that eclipses even America, the world's most hated in power. "Therefore, saith the Most High, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death." In the end, China will face worse than CV-19 and war. That final death and destruction will come in the form of Yahweh Shai and the chariots, the same fate Babylon will receive at the hands of the Most High. Which segues into the last rule of war. After all is said and done, Esau's next, and in his hopes, last move after the enemy Israel has been isolated, be it from internment camps or martial law, is to deliver a final blow that obliterates everything in his path, hoping this time everything in its path stops ticking. As I said before, all the nations know we got next, which is why they try to build hope and bolster China as the next world leader. Unfortunately for Edom, we know too, and this is not how the movie ends. Let's close with this. This is Micah chapter 6, verse 12, and it reads, "For the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. Therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, in making thee desolate because of thy sins." Meaning, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai has only begun in punishing you, and will ruin you and those who have conspired against him with you for your treachery and wickedness. "Thou shalt eat, but not be satisfied, and thy casting down shall be in the midst of thee, and thou shalt take hold, but thou shalt not deliver, and that which thou deliverest will I give up to the sword. Thou shalt sow, but thou shalt not reap. Thou shalt tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil, and sweet wine, but shalt not drink wine." Meaning, just as E is filling his belly, he will be destroyed. Edom will be casted down and humbled, be it from civil discord through unrest or internal conflict. Incidentally, Trump has declared an emergency exists inside D.C. and has called for assistance from FEMA and Homeland Security pursuant to the ensuing presidential inauguration. Esau's plan for total control via New World Order, and China's efforts for that matter, will not meet fruition. They will not enjoy the fruits of their labor. Indeed, Israel will keep on ticking. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bashem Akakwadash through the power and spirit. I hope you edified. Double honors unto your elders and apostles of Great Millstone who teach this 100% truth and rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom Yasharala. Don't take that jab. And don't take that chip.
Big reveal of this underground missile base along the Strait of Hormuz. This is something the Israelis are viewing as a provocative step. What do you think?
Well, I think it was Iran's way of saying that given the concern that they have between the 6th and the 20th of January that Trump might do anything, including an attack on Iran, it was sort of a show of force that to remind the United States that they're capable of hitting U.S. assets in the region. So, and they are capable of that, since there are 34 bases that ring Iran, basically. And but Israelis will say anything against Iran, of course, because they want the Islamic government to be kicked out and replaced. But the reality is that the Iranians have informed the United States, as well as Israel, that any attack on them will be met with force. And that has been somewhat of a deterrence, because they know that Iran is capable of inflicting severe damage.